I'm Luke Sutton. I'm the writer, actor, producer and everything pretty much on my fan film series Star Trek Unity. Well, of course, when we started making it back in 2005, we had 2 megapixel cameras. They were crappy, and you couldn't even try and chroma key. I didn't have the skills to try and chroma key and use green screen when I started. We started using green screens properly maybe 2008, 2009. I had a friend who had one and he showed me the ropes when it came to that. I got my own, and very slowly, as the quality of the camera has improved during the course of the series, the look of it has improved, and now you do occasionally get that sort of green haze around someone, but that's negligible now. Generally, I spend a lot of time with whoever I'm filming with, because the natural process of filmmaking is you're spending hours together, either writing, collaborating or acting. Occasionally it can be sort of, right, you've got 2 minutes quickly to do this voiceover, but it's not often like that. I'd say with for the most part, the people who I've worked with over the years to make this fan film series, I have grown closer to, or at least have made friends with if they were just friends of friends or something like that. And I think that's quite a rewarding aspect, because everyone's had their sort of little part in it. Most of my close friends certainly have. Most of them have been in it a huge amount. I really appreciate their time and effort and the fun that we have doing that. So I think it does make us close, because it is quite a lot of effort in many ways to shoot something as technical as what we do, in that there's a lot of standing around with green screen or going to weird locations. It's not just we set up in a bedroom and pretend or something. I try and make an effort to do it properly, and I suppose some people will get bored of that over a certain period of time. Some people move off, they go to live somewhere else, and we've had people whose characters' storylines have naturally come to an end. But for the most part, a year, couple of years, the core character's been there since the beginning, really.
Legend says that Kahless defeated an entire army of Malor here, again, with his lover, the Lady Lucara.
Sounds like this final journey was its greatest hits.
I'm Ian Pishley, I'm 21, and I've known Luke since it was either 2002 or 2003, it'd be in 2012 at the moment. I would say trains are my first love. They always have been. I discovered trains long before I discovered Star Trek. The thing with trains as opposed to Star Trek is trains are sort of very much still existing in reality, whereas Star Trek is almost becoming a dying breed. The railways are still there and they're still being run continuously, so there is still a lot of staff to do it. Star Trek is still occurring in a limited form, but there's sort of no way I can be involved in the real running of Star Trek, because it's sort of limited to a few dozen fan series and the odd new movie, which I'm never going to be in, because as much as I have these godly looks and anything like that, these Americans don't appreciate that.
There's this anecdote my mum always tells of when we were shopping or something, and this other kid in a pram goes past. Well, you tell it better than I.
No, Luke was always quite a sensible baby, really. And like, we used to go around the supermarket and he'd be really tiny, like, and there'd be these kids screaming and he'd just look at me like this, and I'd look at him and we'd like go, and this is when he was really tiny, and I think, oh, hello.
But basically it's like, why are those kids making a noise?
Why are those kids making a noise?
What is the point? What's the logical purpose of that?
I'm glad it's not you.
Yeah.
Luke, we can't all be Vulcans.
Yeah.
My name is Matt McConnell. I am a cast member in Star Trek Unity. I've also scripted a short amount of the Star Trek Unity episode, and I'm currently 17 years old. I've been with Luke and his productions for about 6 to 7 months now. It's not that long. I first met Luke many years ago, but we weren't really that acquainted as we are now, and we kind of, I would say, re-officiated it at a party at his last birthday in November. It's been a great year. Well, it's been quite intensive over the past few months, considering that we've been taking part in the episode of Revolutions, which has been a very major production for Luke. We've also been doing several other mini-sodes on the side, so it's quite a hefty schedule, at least 2 weekends every 2 months. So it's not a lot in terms of time, but when it actually comes to shooting, it's a very big load. As a college student, you'd expect it to be a lot of work on your part, and therefore very time consuming, but Luke manages to work around that, as we do have free weekends and I myself am not in work at the moment, so that gives me a lot of opportunities to see Luke and other crew members as well. So it hasn't actually interfered that much, but when it does, we can very easily compromised. I was actually attempted at my own big production back in the summer. It didn't particularly go too well, but it was a great first attempt, and I believe that it matured me as a new filmmaker, as well as a person in general. It was actually very similar to Unity. I named it The Valiant. It was actually a childhood project I worked on many years ago. It was just all those sort of comic book fantasies that you had whilst you were drifting off to sleep slightly. So I wanted to put that into a film, and being around Luke did inspire me to actually get into filmmaking and actually put that onto camera. It took about 10 to 15 people. It was very ambitious, to say the least, and that was one of the major reasons that it actually failed in the end. It was a lot of work on my part as a director, an actor, a scripter and eventual editor. So it was a lot of work on my part, and therefore I can appreciate Luke a lot more for what he goes through, especially with the episode of Revolutions.
Jimba, we've never been that close, have we?
I would not say I am close to many now, not since my wife died. But one can live many lives.
Yeah, but we're mates, right?
I consider you a friend, of course. You've never been anything less than an asset since we met.
Back at ya. Just wanted to check.
For the record, my name is Michael Hamilton. I am 19, and I did not consent to this. I wasn't a big fan of Luke for most of the first 5 or so years that I knew him, and partly because I don't think he ever had anything quite, well, me. I think I think it's partly more me growing up than Luke. I'm a lot more tolerant. I think about things a little bit more before I do them. Not always though. I'd say it was a couple of years before Unity, mostly because I'd gone through a few years of realising I wasn't particularly happy with who I was. I took a long hard look at myself. Sort of around the start of my time at Tottenham College, when I was 16, 17. I thought college would be a bit of a fresh start, sort of. I tried to be a better person. I think I've done all right. No, so I think I've been largely constant from about the end of my first year of college, and up, which predates Unity, and my appearance in it, through to now. It helps in a sense that I'm quite a comical person. I'm really just being a comical person dressed as a Klingon when I play Colossus. I think the fact that he's become the Time Lord, the Doctor, the hero of Starfleet. I think it's the staple first project. Self-imagining as a hero, perhaps to escape from slightly worse times in Luke's life. Although I prefer personally not to speculate on such matters. He assumed that as he closed the chapter of his life, Unity would naturally end at the end of that chapter. But I think it's his baby. It's not. It's like a parent. The parent wouldn't want to say goodbye to their child. Unity is Luke's child, and I imagine we'll be doing this for a long time if Luke continues to. We might end it here, but I've got a few new ideas for this one. I wouldn't be surprised either way. He might break away from Unity and move on into, well, paid work. The money will call, and I suspect Unity will be shelved as Luke moves into the working world of media. Or it might not, it might just be a fun pastime for all involved.
Yeah, we're just discussing the final episode because I'm scripting at the moment. I don't know if you've got any ideas on what's the last thing, what have you always wanted to see in the series sort of happen? I don't want to make a shopping list of it, but I do want to sort of incorporate everyone's viewpoint.
I think Peter should get laid. Right,
so a love interest for Ian, because we did have that back in season 1, didn't we? That
didn't come to much.
No, literally and figuratively. What about you, Ash? I mean, you've been with us a short time. Is there anything you particularly want to see? You said you wanted to become a bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you're a pirate. You're not necessarily a...
To be fair, we've both been bad guys, so we should spread that around.
The thing is about you. You were a misunderstood. You were manipulated by evil Lewis.
And you just went insane.
And I went insane, and I mean, we do find out what happens. I mean, Evil Lewis doesn't die.
So you had a double, didn't you? Sort of. It was you, but it was
Evil me from the mirror
Yeah.
universe, yeah. And he's coming back at some point. And we've also got Michael Hamilton, Cleon Colothus, who dies in a heroic ramming of a ship to save the day. His last words are something like, "Deal with it, coupler!" I've got to get the line. I've written this down. No intelligent life forms in there when someone scans with a tricorder. When I was 15, I was still massively a teenager and massively immature, and I still am, and I have no regrets. I'm saying that Star Trek Unity has allowed me to think things through that I wouldn't ordinarily, or teenagers might not ordinarily, in that I think very carefully about my stories, and I don't just want episodes where they beam down to a planet and start firing their phasers and that's it, where there's just a big gunfight. I love gunfights, they're good fun, except when you get killed, and I want something to be a little deeper than that. I want my stories to have a bit of texture to them, especially character driven. So usually I think, well, how would this situation affect me in real life, right? Because I'm very aware that the characters are our age. I'm not saying, oh, we're pretending to be 30-year-old Starfleet captains or whatever. I'm saying these are people this age doing extraordinary things. And while we do gloss over that to a certain extent, I do think about how it would affect me as me in that situation. So it allows me to sort of, I don't know, think about issues that I wouldn't ordinarily think about.